lives. Tom Bateman, BBC News, Johnstown, Pennsylvania.
So it's pretty clear, isn't it, from Tom's piece, that tonight is going to be key for both candidates to get right. And the younger vote is something both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will want to harness in some way. Well, I'm very pleased to say I'm joined now by the president of the Pennsylvania Young Democrats, Hans Van Mol, and by Matt Lamorgese, who is chairman of the Philadelphia Young Republicans. Thank you to both of you for joining us. You're both joining us from Philadelphia, so thanks once again. Hans, if I can ask you, first of all, what do you think the key issues are for Democrats in this election?
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you all. Here in Pennsylvania, we are voters that do not take anything for granted. We work hard. We expect to earn a good living. And I think some of the issues here are some of just the basic issues that any American Pennsylvanian would be expecting: a better quality of life, an ability to get ahead, opportunity for everyone. And it's something that Vice President Harris is offering with her new way forward. We're ready to move the needle. We're ready to move into a new generation of politics in this country, whereas Donald Trump is trying to run us back with his Project 2025 and a campaign of grievance. So we're ready to move forward. We're ready to engage. And we're ready to welcome any American that feels the same way to come and join us.
Matt, do you agree with those in terms of issues that Hans just outlined there?
Well, yeah, and thank you again for having us here today. I think he's right in about the first thing he said. Absolutely, Pennsylvanians are hard workers. They look for a good wage, but they want to keep their money. And they're looking at the inherently inflationary politics of the policies of the Biden-Harris presidency, and they know that their dollar is not going as far. They're struggling right now, and those are all great promises that we just heard from Hans. But the problem is they're in power right now, and they failed to do anything about it.
Hans, response?
I think it's no secret that over the last 4 years, we've really been, the Biden-Harris administration has really been working hard for everyday Americans to try and get us out of a global pandemic, get us back on the road to recovery. And as we've seen here in the United States, the policies that the Biden-Harris administration have put forth have put us back on the road to recovery, have gotten us to this place where we're not thinking about COVID deaths every single day. We're not thinking about how we can get vaccines out. Do I acknowledge that perhaps some of the policies, that we put in place, ended up coming to fulfillment earlier than expected? Absolutely. But I think Vice President Harris has learned from that. I think she's ready to take the best things that she worked with on President Biden, put them forth for the American people, and to really just set a new path and a new way forward with the lessons that we've learned, acknowledging the things that worked, the things that perhaps didn't, and putting forth a coalition that's just going to work for the American people every single day instead of just a single person.
I want to put this question to you both, but Matt, if I could ask you to answer it first. Social media obviously plays a key part now in the world of politics, particularly, I'm assuming, for younger people. How has it changed the way that politics is done these days in the United States? Well,
I mean, first of all, it allows information to be disseminated instantly, right? Like Hans mentioned, Project 2025. They can disseminate that myth instantly across the country, using social media. Whereas, in the past, it took time. It went through people tuning into their televisions in the evening, people reading the newspapers in the morning. So, it's that instantaneous dissemination of news, dissemination of information, I should say, or in the case of the Kamala Harris campaign, misinformation. And it's this ability for people, not only around a city or a state, but around the world to be connected, to go back and forth on these issues. So that's a major change because it just allows that real-time feedback for political campaigns.
Hans, do you see social media that way, as a way in which you can actually, kill disinformation, or do you see it as a way that actually, makes disinformation more available to people?
I see social media, as we just discussed, a way for people to connect almost instantaneously. I mean, to the point, 40, 50 years ago, we were relying mostly on newspapers, the beginnings of TV news, real gatekeepers that allowed us to filter out the information that was really critical to us. And it's now become a much more instantaneous operation where not only can you get the news that is important for people to know, but you can also get the disinformation that perhaps wouldn't get filtered out previously, gets fed in. And so I think it's a sword that cuts both ways. I think it's absolutely true that social media has connected us like never before. It allows us to send out the information like Project 2025, which is a 1,000-page document that, we didn't write it. It's there as a book, but it allowed people to get the information out there, to cut it up piece by piece, and to realize exactly what a future Donald Trump administration would cut to. And we just won't stand for that.
Let's just ask you one final question before I let you both go. And if, Hans, I can ask you this first. What do you want to see from Kamala Harris in that debate this evening?
I think tonight the biggest thing I'm looking for in the debate is the vision that we know that Kamala Harris has about putting America forward and putting us on that path, that new way forward. I think if she lays out a vision that we know will work for the American people, as was described back at the Democratic convention a few weeks ago, that idea that Kamala Harris is going to wake up every day fighting for you, whereas Donald Trump wakes up every day fighting just for himself. I think if she puts that focus into place, it's going to be a good night.
And Matt, what do you want to see from former President Trump this evening?
Well, I want to see former President Trump do the same thing. I want him to outline his agenda, which, by the way, unlike the current administration, which has been a complete failure, Trump's first administration was a success. I want to see how he's going to get us back to a prosperous economy, seal the border off, prevent this invasion, which our borders are. Kamala Harris has done nothing to stop. And I want to see him talk about the policies which are actually going to bring us back to prosperity and economic freedom in this country.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you very much indeed, Matt Lamorgese and Hans Van Mol. It's been really good to talk to you both. Thanks for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, here on BBC News, you'll be able to watch rolling coverage of the ABC News presidential debate simulcast. News coverage will start from 8 p.m. East Coast time on Tuesday. That's 1 a.m. BST. And the actual debate will start about an hour.